After 25 months, Westworld is back, and once again, I'm like,
what the hell is going on here?
With a completely new direction, some fun cameos from past characters, and lots of hints at where the show may be headed, I'll be breaking the episode down with brand new theories and details you missed. We're gonna get right into it, but before we do, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my Westworld videos. This is Las Vegas in the year 2066. That is, if we're to believe this is 8 years after the events of Season 3, which I argue in my Season 3 timeline video occurred in the year 2058. This is a view from the mansion of an unnamed cartel member whose house is furnished in lots of black and whites. This color dichotomy is something that has been used throughout all 4 seasons of Westworld, from things as silly as Dolores having to choose the color of her shoes to William's younger and older versions. Not much is known about this cartel member, other than he's a negotiator for a company which has data William sorely needs. Remember that this William is most likely a host copy controlled by Charlotte Hale. We saw this in the Season 3 post-credit scene where it's revealed Charlotte has made a copy of William using all the data from when he was the Man in Black in Westworld. So basically a super violent piece of shit copy. This host goes on to slit the real William's throat. It might be this exact copy that arrives in this Delos drone, basically confirming he's working with Charlotte. But remember, everything on Westworld isn't always what it seems. William is here to purchase everything this cartel owns, including the Hoover Dam, which powers row after row of what appears to be servers. There's this really interesting line where it's mentioned the generators here can last 100 years without needing maintenance, hinting that we're going to see a significant time jump in the episodes to come. In the Season 4 trailer, which I'll leave a link to in the description, we see William in front of the dam with a giant tear in the middle, reminiscent of the tear we saw in Season 2 which led the host to the Sublime, a sort of Garden of Eden for hosts who could live freely away from humans. There's also some sort of battle that takes place between Charlotte and yet to be determined characters. So this cartel was paid to store this encrypted data by someone who William says is dead. Maybe this is Dolores. We saw Dolores' memory wiped at the end of Season 3, yet a version of her named Christina currently lives in New York. New York, it seems, is some sort of park run by Charlotte. We hear these guys talk about it being their first time.
This is way better than I expected.
This place is fucking wild. I can't believe this is your first time.
We also see Charlotte controls the park from this tower, something that is mentioned throughout the episode.
It's looming over us. The tower. Can you see it?
So if William is working for Charlotte to obtain data Dolores stole, how come a Dolores copy is living in Charlotte's park? In the season trailer, we see William attached to cables similar to those Dolores was hooked up to in Rehoboam. However, Charlotte talks to him here as if he's human. Listen to this.
Your kind made a sport out of hunting us. You controlled our every move. And now, I'm going to do the same to you.
Is this the real William who survived the throat slashing? From the trailer we know there are multiple copies of William. Could one of them turn on Charlotte? After all, before William ventured off to Dubai to kill Charlotte, he made a vow to eradicate every last host from the planet. Love this floor here, which kind of looks like the maze. We'll see this image in one of Maeve's flashbacks, and it also being something Bernard searches for in the trailers. So the cartel isn't too keen on selling all their stuff, so William gives them an ultimatum: sell today and become insanely rich, or sell tomorrow for nothing. When the cartel guy goes home, he's attacked by a swarm of flies and falls unconscious, awaking the next day, killing his boss and signing over everything to William. In the intro credits, we see a fly being created, so it's safe to say these are robotic and controlled by William. Even when the guy is walking, you can hear these kind of mechanical robotic sounds. Perhaps the flies can seep into someone's mind and control them. Another theory is that the flies kill the host, steal their consciousness, and are replaced with a host copy that can be controlled. Flies go all the way back to the very first scene of Westworld Season 1, where they hover over a beat-up Dolores. In New York City, Dolores, or should I say Christina, wakes up in a similar shot to that found in Season 1. The name Christina is an interesting choice derived from Christ. Will she become a savior-like figure? She does choose the white shoes after all. Her room is furnished finished with an easel and painting, we know Dolores loved to paint, suggesting that Christina is some sort of iteration of her. Christina is harassed by someone we'll come to know as Peter. We don't know much about him other than he believes Christina responsible for the bad things in his life and that she's the one who can change it. Perhaps this has something to do with where she works, Olympiad Entertainment. The logo looks a lot like that of Delos, so just like Delos had a Westworld park, maybe Olympiad is somehow involved in this New York park. Olympiad could be a rebranding of Delos Destinations, which faced some really bad press after the massacre at the Westworld park. Christina's job is a writer, crafting stories for a quote-unquote video game. At least that's what she thinks she's doing. Maybe her job is more akin to that of Lee Sizemore's, where she's actually writing different storylines for the park's hosts, Peter being one of them. Olympiad seems to be all-encompassing here in New York. Even Christina's phone has the Olympiad logo on it. The streetlights look eerily like the tower, which also resembles the spindles used to create hosts. Christina lives above a shop called the Warehouse, which I found a bit interesting since the humans in Westworld at the Mesa lived above a warehouse containing old hosts. At work, Christina is told by her boss to stop writing romance storylines and focus on what the people want: thrills, violence, and sex. She had been writing a story about a woman who lived with her father but dreamed of a bigger life, basically a story analogous to hers and her father Peter Abernathy in Westworld. Her boss tells her to write stories like the one she wrote several months ago about a guy who loses everything, drowns in his sorrow, stalks some girl, and ends up dying. This is our one clue that what Christina wrote actually came true with this guy Peter. Notice how this gold orb here and black one here look a lot like those pearls put in the host's brains. In a secluded cabin, Maeve looks as though she's meditating. We see her reaching for something as she experiences several flashbacks. One involves her and her daughter in the center of the maze, Hector, Clementine, and Caleb. But it's the Caleb stuff that is super interesting. We see the two of them infiltrating the facility that looks eerily like the one Serac and Liam Dempsey Sr. used to house early versions of Rehoboam. They plant explosives and Caleb is seriously injured. This looks like it could be deadly. So is this a flashback or a flash forward? Anything seems to be possible in Westworld. Her tapping into this energy short circuits the radio and cuts the power for not only her generator but the entire town, a disruption that is picked up by a group of men sent over by William to track her down. Leading them is a man Maeve calls Colonel Brigham, who you may remember as the leader of the Confederados in Season 2. So it looks as though William has a group of hosts in the real world sent to track down and kill both Maeve and Caleb. Another one of these henchmen is Walter, who you might remember from Season 1. He's been sent to kill Caleb. Speaking of which, Caleb is back to his dull life of construction work. Remember how he had a robot buddy in Season 3? Well, robots seem to be nothing but scrap now after humans have won some sort of war against the machines. Apparently those riots we saw in Season 3 helped bring about the downfall of man's reliance on machines. Caleb also has a wife and child, Frankie, who we see here shooting tin cans, a metaphor for killing hosts. In the trailers, we see her as a host with flies coming out of her mouth. We don't know if Frankie has been copied or if his actual daughter is a host. I love this Banksy-inspired graffiti here that says, "My brain, my choice." It shows a robot controlling a human controlling a robotic drone. Maybe this is a hint that humans think they're in control of the robots, but in reality, they are the ones being controlled. Of note here is this scar along Caleb's face, something he did not have at the end of Season 3. There's also some cheeky dialogue here from Caleb's wife who tells him,
"Enough with the cowboy shit."
After Maeve successfully Jack Torrance's Colonel Brigham, she taps into his memory to see who is after her. It's William. There's also an unknown man beside him who we never really get to see. Perhaps this is the senator Maeve makes reference to at the end of the episode. 7 years off grid, Maeve finally puts a torch to her cabin and sets off in search of Caleb. Back in New York, Christina is startled when she hears a noise on the balcony, venturing outside to find a picture of the maze. Knowing who ends up arriving at the end of the episode, it's a safe bet this was put here by Teddy. And totally unrelated, but I wanted to throw it out there, we don't know when these New York scenes take place. Could we be further into the future than the Caleb storyline? Westworld has been known to play these time tricks on us just like they did with William's storyline in Season 1. Christina ends up going on a date with a guy who tells her, "Maybe you just haven't found the right man yet," foreshadowing Teddy's arrival. Christina also makes reference to the world being broken. On her way home, she is stalked by Peter, who wants to know why why she keeps doing this to us. Is this us referring to humanity? He asks how she knew so much about them, which may be a reference to how Rehoboam knew pretty much everything about everyone. Whatever the case may be, it seems whatever she wrote ended up coming true for him, and this will result in him taking his own life in front of her. But before we get to that, he attacks and cuts her arm. But during the attack, Christina looks away for a brief second, and the man has disappeared, yet her cut is still there. If I were to hazard a guess, Christina was paused here while park operators handled the situation. In the season trailer, we see how people in New York can be paused just like the hosts in Westworld. Christina will wake up almost identical to the shot we saw earlier in the episode, leading me to believe she might be in a loop just like she was in Westworld. Caleb's wife is concerned about his well-being. His PTSD is so bad he sees threats everywhere, and now this is rubbing off on their daughter. She even believes that he misses war and that his life here is too ordinary. This all hints at his decision to join Maeve and end this war once and for all. He won't be able to keep his family safe so long as people like William are coming after him. His wife says a pretty damning line of foreshadowing here.
You're gonna get yourself killed.
So it'll be interesting to see where Caleb and Maeve's journey leads them. We know there is some sort of other park set in the 1920s or 30s, which I absolutely can't wait for. The final scene involves Christina talking about how she's searching for something to fill this emptiness inside her. That thing she needs just might be Teddy. Now, we haven't seen Teddy since season 2, in which he killed himself in front of Dolores and accused her of turning him into a monster. Just how he's come back, we aren't sure. However, I think this Teddy could have the final missing Dolores Pearl. Remember at the end of season 2, Charlotte Hale, who was secretly a copy of Dolores, smuggled out 5 copies of herself. If you include the Charlotte who escaped, this makes 6 pearls to account for. Let's take a look at who has them. The Charlotte Hale who escaped Westworld, who would then transfer her pearl into the body of Dolores, a new Charlotte Hale, Martin Connells, Musashi, and Bernard. This leaves 1 left over. Now, to make things more confusing, the original 5 copies are all black, but in season 3, episode 3, we see the Bernard pearl is what's called a hybrid with black and red mixed together. So either this was a simple production design mistake, or there's a lot more going on here that we simply don't know yet. We also saw Teddy in the Sublime, a result of Dolores uploading him there at the end of season 2. With William seeing this tear at the Hoover Dam, similar to the one hosts used to travel to the Sublime, is it possible Teddy made it back from the Sublime? Likely not, considering Teddy killed himself to get away from her. Why would he be seeking her out? So that's it for this episode of Westworld. I hope you'll give this video a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on your theories below. Thanks for watching, everyone. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT, and until next time, remember...
Now be a dear. Close your eyes, will you?